want to start off by saying that I would support the President's decision today to lift the ban on offshore drilling, the executive order that he implemented, because we do need to decrease our dependency on foreign oil, no question. And it's a two-sided coin. We need to, it's an economic issue, and it's also a national security issue. The fact that we import for 60% of our oil is a national security issue, because if one of our suppliers decides to choke that off, then we become vulnerable. And even though our top 3 suppliers are not rogue nations, and they're not our sworn enemies, if that happens, we become vulnerable. And we need to look at the broad spectrum. Like Bob mentioned earlier, alternative energies, Danny mentioned, absolutely. You know, everyone wants the quick fix because we're feeling the pain at the pump, but we all know that there is no quick fix right now. Drilling, offshore drilling in Anwar, drilling for oil shale, it's part of the equation, But we need to think of the big picture, folks. We need to think of comprehensive, and this is the word, the key word, comprehensive energy reform. No question, we need to further develop our nuclear energy program. We need to further develop our renewable biofuels, sun, wind, hydro, everything. And we know that gas isn't going anywhere because 95% of the transportation sector in our country still runs on petroleum-based energy. So we know it's not going anywhere anytime fast, but we need to get the ball rolling. It's going to take political will. It's not a partisan issue. Democrats, we need to work together because this is an American issue. It's affecting everybody, no matter what side of the aisle you're on. So it's going to take leadership, and it's going to take initiative to get this done. You guys need to think again, big picture, comprehensive energy reform. Thank you.
What's the government's role in this?
Well, the government's role is great, but the people's role is even greater. 57% of the people in our nation right now are already saying they are willing for us to drill offshore. And we need, as congressmen and women, to listen to the people of this great nation. There's been a time when the people of this nation said, no, we want pristine shores, etc. But in this day and age, people are suffering at the gas pump, and they want immediate relief. And one of the ways we can get immediate relief, I know you're saying we cannot, but I believe we can have almost immediate relief if we have the will to announce as a government, this is the government side, that we are going to do all of those things that I've listed. And then the oil barons will say, oh, they're going to do all those things. They have the will. Well, I guess we better lower our prices, as they have done in the past. Every time in our history, we said we were going to develop oil in our country, OPEC, etc., backed down and brought the prices down. And we simply said, okay, well, financially, it doesn't make sense for us to develop this oil, and we have people who are demonstrating against it, so we'll let OPEC bring the prices down, and we will go ahead and buy their oil. But we cannot continue on that path. We're in a global war on terror. Right now, we're getting all the oil we need, but all it takes is for those folks to be overcome by another country, and our resources to not be available. And where will we be? We'll be in a situation like we were in World War II, when we were playing catch-up for 2 or 3 years and begging Russia and England hold on for us until we could get over there while we were developing our resources. We cannot do that ever again. We should learn from the mistakes of the past. I believe that we have every resource right here in our country. We simply must develop those resources. We can offer prizes, tax breaks, all kinds of incentives to the American people to develop new ways of energy. Doesn't have to be wind, doesn't have to be water, doesn't have to be any of those as one single thing. It has to be the whole puzzle. Some of the missing parts of the puzzle are the will of our Congress in the past. The American people now have the will. The congressmen have the will. And I have the will.
Mr. Andre.
Thank you. Jim, you referred to drilling as a long-term solution. That's partially true, but in another sense, I very much disagree. If Congress tomorrow lifted the moratorium on drilling offshore and in Anwar, the the petroleum markets internationally would almost immediately react. They would react because it would be a message to OPEC, the gig is up, you can't gouge us forever. American energy is going to be coming online in the future. And secondly, it would be a message to the speculators that oil prices are not going to go up indefinitely. Now, in terms of it being long-term, 13 years ago, Bill Clinton vetoed a bill that would have allowed drilling in ANWR. He said that this does no good at all. It will take 10 years to get oil flowing out of ANWR. That was 13 years ago. If we were drilling in ANWR, and we can drill in ANWR and offshore in an environmentally responsible way, of the several thousand oil rigs were devastated in Hurricane Katrina, and yet there was not a single environmental mishap. But if we had ANWR oil flowing today, it would give us twice as much oil as we get every day from OPEC, almost 1 million barrels per day. So should we also develop other resources? Absolutely. Clean coal, nuclear, solar, wind, biofuels, absolutely we should invest in those things. But what should we do today? We should lift the moratorium on drilling offshore and in ANWR, and Congress could do it. If the liberal Democrats weren't so beholden to radical environmentalists, we would be doing it.
All right, okay. I agree. I think Jim, your premise is incorrect and that it's only a long-term solution. I agree with the other folks that it is a short-term solution as well. I fully understand that from an economic standpoint, if you go out here and make a national commitment that we will start drilling, we will see these prices come down. It's interesting to me that T. Boone Pickens has got a plan now. And he's somebody who's an oil baron who is looking at this from a different perspective and is looking at wind and other alternatives as ways to solve our problems. The $4 gas has caused us to take a look at a lot of different things. And while it's terrible, it's undermining the entire economy of our country and ruining a lot of the budgets of our families in this country. It has caused us to take a look at how we are using energy, how we're going to use energy in the future. And because of that, I guess the upside of this is that we're starting to look at other things, such as wind energy, atomic energy, biofuels, different types of fuels to fuel our vehicles with. So in a way, it's been a wake-up call. And it's time that we started to look at this as an opportunity to say, whoa, we've got to take our responsibility for what's going on. This willy-nilly of importing oil, and now it's up to 70%, I believe, of foreign domestic oil, foreign oil is coming in. We've got to find a way to stop that, become self-sufficient for economic as well as national security interests. And it's time that we woke up that fact. So it's sort of a perfect storm that's happened here. It's a wake-up call. We've got to have the will to make sure that we can go out here and do what needs to be done, because if we don't, we're going to be sitting here again 10 years from now saying, well, we should have done that. But it's time we as a people rise up and demand from our leaders some leadership, which has not been there for the last 10, 12, 15 years.
Talked to an oil man the other day, and he said that if we had to go ahead, they would have oil coming out of the ground in 3 months. I know I've heard liberals say from 7 years to 30 years, and I'm thinking, you're telling me that oil that we're bringing over to the United States, it took them 30 years to get it out of the ground in here? That's insane. Once again, that's insane. No, it didn't. 3 months. 3 months, the oil's coming out of the ANWR. We got to figure out how to get it to a tanker and get it to our refineries. We need more refineries, yes. That's what the time's going to come in. It's going to take time to build those. But it'll be American oil going through the refineries that we now have instead of Iraqi oil. I think that's a plus, whether it lowers the price or not, and we know it is going to lower the price. We can be an oil exporter. Why not send that oil around the world instead of the world buying Iranian oil and Iraqi oil? We can make them almost a non-entity. What else does the Middle East have besides oil? Atomic waste. I'm all for atomic. Did people say, but what about all the waste? My understanding is that all the atomic waste since 1959 could fit on a football field. That's not bad. I don't think that's our future. I think we do need to explore wind and solar and those kind of things. But we don't need, the government does not need to be part of that. If you can come up with an idea where we can run our cars on solar, you're going to be a bazillionaire. The government doesn't have to help you do that. If you've got an idea, run with it.